The sun was setting over the ocean, casting a golden glow across my small beachside apartment. I had just finished my evening workout, feeling the satisfying burn in my muscles as I settled onto the couch. On a whim, I decided to post a lifting video on Facebook, showcasing my progress and mentioning my new life by the sea. It was a simple act, one I'd done countless times before, but little did I know it would set in motion a series of events that would shake the foundations of my carefully constructed world. As I scrolled through my feed, a notification popped up. My heart skipped a beat when I saw her name. It had been years since we last spoke, and the memories of our relationship came flooding back. A tidal wave of emotions I thought I had long since tamed. With trembling fingers, I opened the message. The conversation was brief, almost clinical in its simplicity. "You in state?" she asked. I could almost hear her voice, that familiar mix of curiosity and assertiveness that had always drawn me to her. "Yep," I replied, feeling a surge of excitement and apprehension. The exchange that followed was loaded with unspoken intentions. "You single?" "Yep." "You free tonight?" "Yep." And then, the bombshell that would upend my evening, "Be there in 8 hours." As the clock ticked away, I found myself in a state of nervous anticipation. I paced around my apartment, alternating between tidying up and staring out at the ocean, as if seeking answers from the endless expanse of water. My mind raced with memories of our time together. The laughter, the heated arguments, the passionate reconciliations. She had always been a force of nature, someone who could light up a room with her presence and leave it in beautiful chaos just as quickly. I remembered the way she challenged me, pushing me to be better, to think deeper, to live more fully. But I also recalled the pain of our breakup, the reasons we had parted ways. We were young, ambitious, and heading in different directions. The decision to end things had been mutual, but that didn't make it any less painful. Now, years later, I wondered what had changed. What had brought her back into my life? As the hours passed, I found myself reliving our relationship. I thought about our first date, how nervous I had been, and how she had put me at ease with her quick wit and dazzling smile. I remembered our first kiss, the electricity that had coursed through my body, a feeling I had chased but never quite replicated since. There were memories of lazy Sunday mornings, of heated debates over politics and philosophy, of supporting each other through tough times and celebrating our victories together. But there were also darker memories. The fights that left us both exhausted and hurt, the times when our stubbornness got the better of us, the gradual realization that maybe love wasn't enough to bridge the growing gap between us. I thought about the day we decided to end things, how we had held each other and cried, both knowing it was the right decision but hating every moment of it. As the clock struck midnight, I heard a knock at the door. My heart raced as I approached, taking a deep breath before turning the handle. And there she was, looking just as beautiful as I remembered, perhaps even more so. Time had been kind to her, adding a maturity and confidence to her features that took my breath away. For a moment, we just stood there, drinking in the sight of each other. Then, without a word, she stepped forward and embraced me. The familiar scent of her perfume enveloped me, and I felt myself melting into her arms. It was as if no time had passed at all, as if we were picking up right where we had left off all those years ago. The hours that followed were a whirlwind of passion and rediscovery. We made love with an intensity that surprised us both, our bodies remembering each other's rhythms and desires. But there was something different this time, a shift in our dynamic that I couldn't quite put my finger on. In the past, I had usually been the dominant one in our relationship, but tonight, she took charge in a way that left me breathless and exhilarated. As we lay tangled in the sheets, catching our breath, I felt a mix of emotions washing over me. There was joy at our reunion, a sense of completeness I hadn't realized I was missing. But there was also a nagging feeling of unease, a sense that this moment, beautiful as it was, couldn't last. Turning to her, I asked the question that had been on my mind since she arrived. "Are you staying?" I tried to keep my voice neutral, but I could hear the hope and fear intertwined in those 3 simple words. Her response hit me like a punch to the gut. "Nah, I have to be at a wedding in the morning. It's my wedding." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with implications. I felt as if the ground had shifted beneath me, leaving me unsteady and confused. As she dressed quickly, the reality of the situation began to sink in. This wasn't a rekindling of our relationship, but a final goodbye. I watched her move around the room, her grace and confidence both captivating and heartbreaking. I wanted to say something, anything, to make her stay, to understand why she had come, but the words wouldn't come. When she finally walked out the door, it was as if she took a piece of me with her. The silence that followed her departure was deafening. I stood there, alone in my apartment, the echoes of our time together still reverberating in my mind. The scent of her perfume lingered in the air, a ghostly reminder of what had transpired. In the days that followed, I found myself in a daze, replaying the night over and over in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling of having been part of something beautiful yet ultimately fleeting. It was a stark reminder of the complexities of love and the choices we make. I had always believed that love was about timing, and perhaps this was the universe's way of proving that point. I threw myself into my workouts with renewed vigor, channeling my confusion and hurt into physical exertion. The burn in my muscles became a welcome distraction from the ache in my heart. I spent hours on the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore, finding solace in the rhythmic ebb and flow of the tide. It reminded me that life goes on, that even the most tumultuous emotions eventually calm. As weeks turned into months, I began to process what had happened. I realized that our encounter, brief as it was, had stirred up unresolved feelings and questions. Why had she come to me the night before her wedding? Was it a moment of doubt, a final farewell to her past, or something more? I found myself analyzing every word, every touch, looking for hidden meanings and intentions. I thought about reaching out to her, but what would I say? Congratulations on your marriage? I miss you? I'm confused and hurt? Nothing seemed adequate to express the turmoil of emotions I was experiencing. Instead, I chose silence, respecting the boundaries she had implicitly set by walking out that door. As time passed, I began to see our encounter in a different light. It wasn't just about us, about our past or what could have been. It was a catalyst for change, a moment that forced me to confront my own feelings and desires. I realized that I had been coasting through life, content but not truly living. Our night together had awakened something in me, a hunger for connection, for passion, for a life lived fully. I started to make changes. I signed up for cooking classes, something I had always wanted to do but never found the time for. I joined a local beach volleyball team, pushing myself out of my comfort zone and meeting new people. I even started writing, pouring my thoughts and feelings onto paper in a way I never had before. Through it all, the memory of her lingered. But instead of letting it hold me back, I used it as motivation to become the best version of myself. I worked harder at my job, pursued new opportunities, and opened myself up to the possibility of new relationships. I learned to appreciate the beauty of the present moment, to find joy in the simple things. A perfect sunset, a good book, a laugh shared with friends. As the one-year anniversary of our encounter approached, I found myself back on the beach, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, a breathtaking canvas that seemed to mirror the complexity of human emotions. I thought about how much had changed in a year, how much I had grown and learned. I realized that what had initially felt like a cruel twist of fate was actually a gift. That night with her had been a catalyst for self-discovery and growth. It had shown me that I was capable of feeling deeply, of being vulnerable, of taking risks. It had reminded me of the person I used to be and inspired me to become the person I wanted to be. As I stood there, feeling the sand between my toes and the gentle ocean breeze on my face, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I was grateful for the experience, for the memories, and even for the pain. It had all led me to this moment, to a place of self-awareness and contentment I might never have found otherwise. I took out my phone and opened Facebook, scrolling to the video that had started it all. For a moment, I hesitated, my finger hovering over the delete button. But then I smiled and put the phone away. That video, like the memory of our night together, was part of my story now. It had shaped me, changed me, made me who I am today. As I turned to walk back home, I felt lighter, freer. The future stretched out before me, full of possibilities. I didn't know what it would bring, new loves, new adventures, new challenges, but I knew I was ready to face it all. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I silently thanked her for that unexpected visit, for the storm that had cleared the way for clearer skies. The waves continued to crash against the shore, a constant reminder that life is ever-changing and so are we. I smiled, knowing that while the past shapes us, it does not define us. It was time to embrace the future, whatever it may hold, with an open heart and a spirit of adventure. As I reached my apartment, I paused at the door, looking back at the ocean one last time. The memory of her visit would always be with me, a bittersweet chapter in the story of my life. But now it was just that, a chapter, not the whole book. With a deep breath and a sense of anticipation, I stepped inside, ready to write the next pages of my journey.